ladies and gentlemen, to the eighth wonder of the world, the flow of the century, always timeless. Oh, thank you for coming out tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. H to the Izzo, V to the...
Ladies and gentlemen, as the song said, thank you for coming out tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. I'm Candice Bromfield, and this is my partner for tonight, Adeyinka and Adewale, and we'll be delivering a fabulous presentation on character, integrity, and trust, what we deem to be the triad. At this point, I'd invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy our presentation.
Wow, good evening, everyone, and it's good to see you all. Let's borrow the wings of imagination and delve into reminiscence for a second. Let's just imagine that we have a bowl of water sitting still on a table. And then let's imagine ourselves and poke that water with our fingers. And what do you think happens, Candice?
Ripples, waves,
absolutely,
bubbles.
Ripples, yeah, ripples and bubbles. You see, watching that over the years has taught me 3 management lessons. 1, the things we do don't stay with us, they spread. See, as individuals, we don't exist in isolation. And as leaders and managers, the things we do, our actions, have a way of rubbing off on people directly or indirectly. 2, the things we see manifest on the outside come from the inside. It's an inside job. And that's why character is an outward expression through behavior of an inward feeling. And that's why character is also like smoke. See, no matter how hard you try to conceal it, it finds a way to come out. 3, watching the ripples very closely teaches me a lesson in consistency, hence integrity. See, integrity itself is about consistency and a consistent adherence to moral principles and virtues. So you would agree with me that upon this, trust is formed. So, do we need this in business? You might probably then say, yes, of course we do. But the realities of our times are glaring. What some people choose to call the highly viral capitalism system suppresses every iota of morality in us and causes the self-centeredness and the me, I, and myself syndrome to fly. But beyond whatever we might have for or against capitalism, we stand here tonight as the voice and the conscience of the future of business on the face of the earth. Candice?
I stand here tonight from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, by way of the country with the fastest man in the world, Jamaica. Adeyinka stands here as another immigrant child from the giant of Africa, Nigeria. And when you think of these places that we were born and raised, or beautiful homelands, you think of things such as the tropical climate, the beaches, the relaxed environment, strong, resilient people, great food, everything Irie, right?
Yeah, man.
Sadly, you think of these countries, you think of them being plagued by poverty, ensnared by corruption, and riddled by poor leadership, stemming from empty promises delivered by corporate executives and government officials who have forsaken the elements of the triad. In 2001, the world woke up to the headline, Enron has fallen. And how did Enron fall? Simple. Enron fell from the accumulation of unhealthy and unethical business practices from the CEO, Kenneth Lay, and his gang. Quite logical, isn't it? How exactly did Enron fall, and who was the trigger of this? A name all too familiar to us, Sharon Watkins, the whistleblower who literally blew the whistle as she was against the way in which Kenneth Lay and his team conducted businesses. She felt as though it went against her religious beliefs and her professional ethos. Ultimately, this led to the dissolution of one of the top 5 business firms, Arthur Andersen, and the imprisonment of many corporate executives. Since 2001, and as I stand here tonight in 2013, ladies and gentlemen, there's been countless other cases of scandals. In 2002, Tyco fell. In 2003, Health South fell. In 2004, Parmalat fell. Adeyinka, tell them some more.
2008, Lehman Brothers. And of course, what started as a series of financial tremors from 2001 accumulated into a financial tsunami in 2008. 30 million job losses, life snuffed out of poor, small businesses, and several cases of suicide not even reported on the faces of the newspaper. It's really bad.
What about the recent Spanish Prime Minister scandal?
Oh, yeah.
And let's not forget our good friend Lance Armstrong. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stand here tonight, the fact is, I tell you that the Triad has gone wrong. And what do you think happens when we forsaken the Triad? It's very important that we realize that the Triad has been driven out of the boardroom. It has been shredded into the dustbins. And until we as leaders, and until we as managers accept this, we have to accept it, because the Triad will strike back.
Absolutely, Candice. And you see, very recently I had the privilege of driving down the street, very long street called Management. See, on that street I saw many houses that housed private jets and luxury and all that. But as I drove down that street, very hypothetical, isn't it? But as I got down to the end of that street, I found character, integrity, and trust housed in the most derelict parts, the slum areas, because they're now disregarded in the way we do business. But I left that street with a consolation that the Triad have got a big sister called Justice. She's a pretty big, bold, and audacious lady. She's got a sword on one hand, scale on the other, and she's always blindfolded, just like Candice. Now, with the sword she strikes, with the scale she weighs issues, and with the blindfold she measures matters objectively without bias. Thanks very much. And she runs a restaurant called Karma. See, in the restaurant, we all must dine in it. In fact, you don't even have to place an order. You simply get served what you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we are not against all that has happened to corporate executives and to companies that have been fined hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, these things are good. That's justice in action. But we stand here tonight to say that all these practices have a way of affecting the future, because by the thoughts and the deeds and actions of today, we are able to shape the future. What happens to that young business school student that walks in and looks up to top CEOs and aspires to rise to the very top of management, and only to realize that business is the way we are running it? How is this happening? It ends up in a disaster. Candice.
Character, integrity, and trust is not for sale. We must know that leadership magnifies who we already are, and it's an important trait in successful businesses today. These virtues that we've been speaking about tonight, character, integrity, and trust, are not based on credentials, are not to be confused with reputation, and are not determined by circumstances. We've come up with 3 recommendations based on the virtues of character, integrity, and trust. 1, the Triad must be a compulsory business resource, because a reputation that's built over 1,000 years can quickly be destroyed overnight. 2, leaders must not only be passionate and mentally tough, they must be assertive, well-liked, down-to-earth, and humble, while bringing about a difference in society and amplifying impact. Finally, as the great Gandhi once said, be the change that you wish to see in the world, and indeed, he was right. The virtues, character, integrity, and trust must be at the forefront of businesses today. Adeyinka said earlier in his presentation that the things we do, they don't stay with us. Yeah. He was right. They don't stay with us. They emanate out into the universe. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, if I leave you with one thing tonight, one take-home message, if any one of you strive to be leaders, aspire to be proponents of change, keep character, integrity, and trust on the tip of your tongue. Thank you.
In conclusion, therefore, whose responsibility is it? We say that from ourselves, you and I, let's begin to imbibe these virtues in the way we do things, to the neighborhoods and to our families, to schools, from the primary schools to the tertiary institutions, to the business schools. Let's begin to work on this. And thankfully, Henley Business School has got these virtues ingrained in our values as an institution, which, of course, is a good news. And also, we must realize that these virtues are so important, we can't afford to change them like the clothes we put on every day. You see, character, integrity, and trust, we call the Triad. They should sit on us like skin. I haven't seen anyone change their skin every day. And therefore, I leave us with the thoughts and the words of that great President Theodore Roosevelt. He says, now that we know, the best thing we can do is to act. The next best thing is to do nothing. And the worst thing we can ever do is to remain undecided. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a duty and even a responsibility to shape the future of business starting from now, because the future is now. Thank you very much.